this idea that it's so hard to be pretty, let's hang it off flat screen, okay?
Be kind to us pretty girls.
For me, pretty was kind of like it wasn't a privilege for me. I was judged. Rumors were made up about me. And it was kind of always working against me.
And just like that, another biracial in denial of her musical capabilities. Saweetie unfortunately went on an interview and stated that
they talk about pretty privilege, but they don't talk about pretty punishment. There's been so many times I've just been counted out.
Privilege is what got you as far as it did, and you got the nerve to sit up and talk about pretty punishment. No, sweetie, you are a prime example of pretty will get you through the door, but it won't keep you there.
So let's talk about the illusion of pretty punishment. This was highly influenced by a clip of Saweetie that is circulating of her talking about it. We'll get into that in a little bit. But first, let's talk about what happens when people confuse benefiting from colorism and featureism for pretty privilege. This is also inspired by some lady on TikTok that said people treat her horribly because she's pretty.
I was in a public spot a few weeks ago, and there was a gentleman who was talking to me more than he was talking to the other ladies in the room. And ever since then, those ladies have been treating me like shit. And it wasn't my fault. He was just talking to me. Probably because I was confident enough to speak back to him. I don't know. But they was hating. And they've been treating me like shit ever since. So y'all, be kind. Be kind to us pretty girls. We out here scratching.
Two things she points out contributing to her pretty privilege is the skin, how light skin she is, and also her hair. That is colorism and featureism. This does not say that she's not pretty or that she does not benefit from pretty privilege. But according to her own understanding of what pretty is, she is supposedly benefiting from colorism and featureism. Both isms that are heavily rooted in proximity to whiteness, by the way. That is where the problem is. It's not necessarily about debating the pretty or not, the lack thereof. Because a lot of people can be pretty but are not light-skinned. A lot of people can be pretty with fussy hair. It's not about those features necessarily. A few others have also talked about how they think this is about ageism because some people are talking about how she's 50 and she can be saying she's pretty at that age. I think you can be pretty at 50. I think you can be pretty at 60 or at any other age. It's not really about ageism. Maybe it is for other people, but personally for me, it's not really about ageism. I feel like another thing that may have contributed to that is the fact that you don't necessarily hear people around that age refer to themselves as pretty. There's nothing wrong with that. It's just not very common. And a part of pretty privilege is also tied to how youthful you may look, which is why I feel like some people feel the need to attack her for how she looks at 15.
That woman got annihilated in the comment section on that video. And why do you think that is? She's a 50-year-old biracial woman, and she goes on in that video to say that she experiences pretty privilege all the time, that she gets compliments all the time on her facial features and her eyes and her complexion, her hair. And many of the comments were from women and Black women who expressed that what she was describing is colorism, not pretty privilege. And some went on to say, honey, you're not pretty. And they called her old. I mean, the comments were brutal. But I think it opens up a whole nother conversation, and that is, what exactly is pretty privilege, and does it apply to older women? So by definition, pretty privilege refers to the social and economic advantages that people receive when they're just basically more attractive. And honestly, I think it's an unearned privilege, right? Like, people who are more attractive generally just get treated better out in society. You might get better job opportunities or promotional opportunities in the workplace if you're more attractive. And of course, you get more attention in the dating world the more attractive you are. I mean, that's just a fact. But now back to that video, right? So why did the women react that way when she said that she experiences pretty privilege? It's because for us women, as we age, our quote unquote pretty privilege is diminished by ageism, or the fact that you can't receive those same benefits as you age because societal beauty standards are tied to youth. So as an older woman myself, I'm 61, would I walk around here really thinking that pretty privilege applies to me in the same way that it did when I was in my 20s and 30s? Hell no, nor should it. I mean, look, it's just different, right? I think people treat older women with a little more respect if you carry yourself with this sense of elegance or vitality, if you come across as healthy and vibrant, then yes, you get a few more perks as you age. But just receiving compliments on your looks is not necessarily pretty privilege by definition. So maybe she just used the wrong term. But yeah, the comment section was brutal, y'all.
Another thing is that she's also lost some weight. So a few people are stitching her old video saying, oh, this is the you that you're saying benefited from pretty privilege. Sort of, in a sense, trying to say because she was thicker, she shouldn't have benefited. I know that people would gravitate towards a thinner person, but sometimes people still gravitate to somebody that is thicker, even though the dominant beauty standard is that of somebody that is thinner. But there are also other factors that may shape whether or not somebody is considered pretty, especially confidence. And in my case, having lost that weight, I feel like now that's a plus. So that's not about that, but there's also another part of that conversation, which is pretty punishment. That's the thing, yes it is. At least according to the rest of the world. But the rest of the world and Saweetie, who says that she hasn't had the best luck in her career because of being pretty.
They talk about pretty privilege, but they don't talk about pretty punishment. There's been so many times I've just been counted out, and I know that it's behind animosity. I know it's because of a hidden agenda, but it makes me work harder. But this has happened like my whole life. So it's like what I deal with in the industry is just, different face, same case.
For me, pretty was kind of like it wasn't a privilege for me. I was judged. Rumors were made up about me. And it was kind of always working against me. And it's just like, for me, I never thought of pretty as glamorizing my existence as a human being.
And there were a bunch of people holding her hand saying, Saweetie, the music just isn't good.
If I'm being perfectly honest, pretty privilege is what got you as far as it did, and you got the nerve to sit up and talk about pretty punishment. No, sweetie, you are a prime example of pretty will get you through the door, but it won't keep you there. Coupled with the fact that, sweetie, yes, by every stretch of the imagination, you are a beautiful girl. You are. If a bitch call you ugly, they a hating ass liar. But love, you ain't the only pretty girl in the industry. You are not the only pretty girl in the industry. And for you to sit back and think on one level or another that you are not climbing and doors are being closed on you because of the way you look, you are sadly mistaken. And I'm here to tell you that anybody around you who is co-signing that bullshit, they're not your friend and they don't care about you because they are allowing you to live in a space that is keeping you from growing. Now, I'll be the first person to admit that I am not the most qualified to speak on these young girls' female rap, but I do have 2 ears and I am able to listen. When you first came out, you had some songs that were getting a lot of heavy airplay. But what happened, sweetie, during the time that you came out, which is good for the industry but bad for lackluster talent, is a lot of girls came out at the same damn time. And it's no different than the social media influencing space. Everybody wants to do it. So many people are doing it, but the cream rises to the top. Sweetie, you got big nerve. You got big nerve. And you've got big nerve because you have already won 90% of the battle, which was getting through the door, getting on the radio, getting music videos, getting endorsements. You've already made it. You've already made it. There are so many up and coming artists and aspiring females that would give anything to be in your spot right now. And you've got the mitigated gall to sit on this internet and talk about things are not happening for you because you're being punished for being pretty. I hate to break it to you, and I'm not going to say anything disparaging about this girl's art. But what I will say, sweetie, is it's the simple fact that competition is steep right now and you're just not winning. You're just not winning. It ain't because you're pretty. And I think resting on that is taking the cheap and the lazy way out. Because you are attributing your success or your lack of success to something external. What you're currently doing is saying, I would be further if it wasn't for them hoes hating on me.
Somebody also said Nicki is very, very pretty, but her talent surpasses her beauty, so much so that we hardly mention her looks. And there are a lot of artists like that who are very, very, objectively, by the way, pretty, but their talent surpasses their beauty or physical appearance, so much so that you don't even discuss it. You will never look at big artists like Beyonce and think to yourself, oh, she's only that big because she benefits from pretty privilege or colorism or featureism. That may be true. She may benefit from all of those things, but it's not certainly not the reason why she's as big as she is today. She probably understood just how far pretty privilege would take her, but also put in the work to make it worthwhile. But when you keep writing on pretty privilege and it only ends up taking you so far, you come back here talking about how this is pretty punishment, when in reality you're just experiencing what it's like to live without the pretty privilege. You're experiencing its absence, just like the rest of us. I personally don't feel like pretty punishment actually exists. That is a strong word for what you're trying to describe. I understand exactly what you're trying to say though. But to me, I don't think punishment accurately describes what this is. And this is coming from somebody that actually had pretty privilege before. Okay, lost it, had it. So I know both sides of the coin. I'm not just trying to defend my ugliness. Punishment to me would be a treatment that you get that makes you rethink the very same thing that led you to that punishment. In this case, pretty privilege leading to pretty punishment. Would you ever rethink pretty privilege over pretty punishment? Nobody ever gives this up. Nobody that has ever benefited from pretty privilege prefers not having it, me inclusive, because the benefits by far outweigh the punishment.
You see you girls that talk about how hard it is to be pretty and how pretty privilege is a bad thing and pretty punishment is so real and da-da-da. If you're really about it, exchange places with somebody you consider needy. If you're really believing that, exchange places with somebody you consider needy today. Let's do that today. Can you also point me to something that you exclusively experience as a beautiful woman that other women don't experience? I'll also wait for that because I don't know where this idea is coming from. We all know that pretty people, beautiful people, handsome people do better in life or are treated better in life, at least, allowing them to do better in life. So this idea that it's so hard to be pretty, let's hang it off flat screen, okay? And this is not to say that there aren't inconveniences, frustrations, and uncomfortable situations that may come with pretty privilege itself. That's not what I'm saying at all. One thing I don't actually miss about pretty privilege is the fact that people are constantly wanting to be in your company and some sort of association, even though you really don't want to be around anybody. That's one thing I probably will not miss about that. I would like the privilege back, even with the inconveniences. And this is exactly what speaks to the fact that it cannot be a punishment at all because it does not compare to the trade-off. And most of these inconveniences and frustrations are not entirely unique to pretty privilege, if we're being honest. I'm not saying pretty privilege cannot be a reason why they happen, but they are not entirely unique. It could be other reasons as well. You could say, oh, people don't like me because I'm pretty and they think I'm mean, or they think I'm less competent, or they don't think I'm smart. Meanwhile, maybe your attitude does actually need some work. Maybe it is true that you're actually mean. And I'm not saying that every pretty girl is going to be mean. And yes, people can judge you like that even when it's not true.
Recently, I've seen a lot of content on Twitter and on here from generically attractive women talking about the struggles of being pretty and how being pretty is like this super hard thing, this burden that they must navigate. And I don't want to dismiss anyone's experience, but my issue with a lot of the content is that when they describe these things that they go through, the things they go through are often things that women go through generally as a result of being in a patriarchal society. Like whether you're generically attractive or not considered attractive at all, women go through these things. Things like harassment, things like abuse are not reserved for generically attractive women, pretty women. All women experience it at the hands of men. Additionally, a lot of these videos talk about how like, oh, women just hate me off the bat, women just don't like me. Forgive me, but I feel like a lot of attractive women who say this and who spew this are often not very nice people. And that's not to say that some women aren't bitchy. Yes, some women are bitchy and they don't like other women for absolutely no reason other than feeling threatened by that woman. But do I think they're in the majority? Absolutely not. I think women are very forthcoming as people generally. And if you can make a blanket statement and say like, I have male friends, I don't have female friends because women don't like me, women are this, women are that, that's generally 9 times out of 10 a reflection of the person, with them being that common denominator. I've seen like women say, oh yeah, you get pretty privileged, but is it really worth it? Because you get all these other things that come with it. Honestly speaking, I actually think society is kinder to attractive women. I've seen the way society treats women who are deemed unattractive. I've seen the way men treat those women. Men will treat attractive women as if they are worthy of more respect, and unattractive women as if they are worthy of less respect. I think if you think it's hard for you navigating life as a beautiful woman, you really have no idea how hard it is for people who don't fall in that bracket of like conventionally attractive. Even when beautiful women online talk about dating, they're like, it's so hard because you don't know who wants you for you and who wants you as a trophy. Sis, at least people want you. Some people get absolutely no attention from the opposite sex, absolutely no interest from the opposite sex. You're complaining that there are a lot of guys who want you for your looks and want you for your body, but at least you have options to choose from. You can filter out those guys and filter out the better guys, right? You might not always get it right, but you're able to do that because you have options. Some people have absolutely no options. So yeah, I guess I say this to say that when I see those videos, I just always think like, you really don't know what the other side is like at all. It's like people making a video of how hard it is to be rich, right? Because people want you for your money. You don't know who's really genuine. Being rich makes you increases your chance of being a victim of theft and burglary. Like, those are all valid points, but I honestly think the pros vastly outweigh the cons.
And when it comes to people thinking you're not smart or that you're less competent, misogyny can also explain that. The same way pretty privilege would. Yes, people may not think you're capable enough. They might limit you to a particular role that they have for you as some sort of beautiful accessory. They'll tell you, just sit there and be pretty. This is something that Megan Good actually talked about.
Through my 20s, I kind of played like a lot of the pretty girl, the love interest, or the sexy girl, whatever. Then, at a certain point, I was like, hi guys, I can do so much more than that. And the attitude was like, no, just be pretty.
Right.
Having to learn, how to break out of that box without letting it make me bitter or upset. You hear other people's experiences and someone will discredit yours because they think that, oh, well, that buys you certain privileges. But it also does work against you at times as well. Somebody who's in a position of power is attracted to you.
Yeah.
And it's like, you're like, if I just like shut this down a certain kind of way, then they don't want to work with you, or they want to say that you're this, you're that. And so then you kind of have to, kind of like, what are you talking about? I don't know what you're talking about. Like, I just told you that went over my head. In a lot of ways, it has worked for me. Yeah. And then there's been ways where it's worked against me, which has been a challenge. But I just try not to complain about anything. I'm like, look, something comes with it, no matter what side of the spectrum or no matter how you're experiencing it. Nothing that we're trying to pursue is just easy.
So a few people seem to think that it's not actually true that that is the case. It's just that she doesn't have range. Whether or not that is true, I do not know, but I do know that that may be somebody's lived experience because of pretty privilege. Still doesn't make a punishment though. Not a punishment at all. Because if you ever ask any of these ladies if they'll ever trade their places with somebody that's not conventionally attractive, they would never. It's not going to happen. If anybody ever tells you that, they're lying to your face. Pretty punishment is simply not a thing at all. In fact, somebody even likened it to reverse colorism or colorism to light-skinned people. Not a thing. Not a thing at all. Never will be. And yes, it is a real thing. Those frustrations, those inconveniences, those kind of horrible situations are real. Okay, people will mistreat you. People will be jealous of you. Yes, that is true. But it's not punishment. And sometimes those experiences are not even unique to pretty privilege alone. People will objectify you. Misogyny also. And one last time, before you start typing away, I'm not saying that the people that experience these things are exaggerating or that they are overreacting. All of these things may capture the cost of being considered pretty. That we're on the same page 100%. Those are real issues. What I'm saying is that no one that has ever experienced pretty privilege is ever willing to give it up for an average looking person's life, because it simply doesn't come with the same trade-off as not being pretty. And if you really think that is not true, you probably are disconnected from reality. That's all I'm going to say. But I may also be wrong, so please leave your comments in the comment section below and we'll continue the discussion from there. Bye.